Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. Bitcoin has been pumping so hard and it's shaking out all of the weak hands. This was something that I've been warning everybody about ever since we first crashed. I said that the people that panic sold this were going to severely regret that decision, and Bitcoin is proving to us each and every day why that was a huge mistake. Bitcoin is outperforming the rest of the altcoins out there, and it's really starting to assert its market dominance with this recent sell-off. We've already made back all of the losses that were from the recent crash, where we crashed 60% in one day. We are already over 10% in profit at this point, and what's coming is going to blow your minds. Today I'm going to be diving in. We're going to be talking about the halving. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin on a long-term basis on the log scale. We're also going to be taking a look at Bitcoin on the monthly, weekly, and shorter time frames. So this is going to be a 100% dedicated video to everything around Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin doing and how is this going to affect the alts? So make sure you guys stay all the way to the end because I promise these are some really important charts that you're not going to want to miss out on any of this exciting information. If you're new and just finding this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel. Make sure that you guys click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos like the one provided for you here. I also have a Discord community with over 5,000 members. I would really love to have all of you guys join and be a part of this exclusive community. Now with this server, it's totally free for anybody to join. There's no fee, there's nothing. However, on my Discord server, I also offer from some of my more exclusive content like the video course and signals. The video course is 20 educational videos that teach you all of the strategies that I use to profit inside of crypto. It's a really good resource for new guys getting involved that want to start learning how to make trades by themselves and want to start learning how to actually capitalize on these volatile markets. Now the signals are a way for people to actually just copy what my investments are. You guys will know exactly what I'm holding. I also post all of my short-term margin trades as well as any other spot buy orders that I post. All of it is going to be posted inside the Discord for you guys to actually copy if you're part of the signals. So if you guys want access to any of that or if you just want to join for free, make sure you guys click in the description of this video and there you're going to find the invitation link to my server. Once you guys have access, shoot me a message if you want access to any of the exclusive content and I will get back to you as soon as possible. With all that being said, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for the support. I was down and out yesterday. I was sick, and so I didn't make an update for you guys. So today, we're going to make a really good one, and it's going to be full of a lot of information. So let's get right into this video today. Alrighty guys, here we are taking a look at the Bitcoin block reward halving countdown. This is really important. We are now just over 10 days before we have this halving, almost 11 days, but this is something that a lot of people have been talking about. I know I've been super excited about this for a long time. I actually first got into Bitcoin and invested my first bit of cryptocurrency way back right before the last halving in 2016. I bought my first Bitcoin at $450, and then over the course of a year and a half, I watched it go all the way up to 20,000. That's not mentioning all of the 1000x returns that all of those other cryptocurrencies did. Many of the other cryptos did over 1000x, Ethereum did 3000x, and this is just really exciting stuff that we're now going to actually experience this once again. I know that this has been something that I've really structured my channel around. I wanted to get in early and make my channel before this halving ever took place because I knew that there was going to be so much new money that was entering this market. And so we're just about 10 days away before we have this next halving. This is the third one. Each and every one of these halvings has created a massive price shock, and it really drives that value of Bitcoin each and every time. And that's really where we see the bulk of those rises. Now, in my opinion, do I think that the halving is going to immediately start pumping the prices? Well, not exactly. I think that there will be a little bit of a build-up time, but it is really important nonetheless. Now, if maybe you guys don't understand the halving, I'll explain it just a little bit. Basically, you have miner rewards, and every 4 years, the miner rewards and the new Bitcoins that are created into that supply gets cut in half. And right now we're at about 12.5 Bitcoins per every block mined, and we're about to have that next halving in 10 days that's going to drop it to 6.25. And so this also makes it harder to mine at the same time, so you have a little bit of a miner capitulation, which is why I would not be the least bit surprised to see us actually sell off a little bit after this halving. Now, let's go through here and actually dive into the real Bitcoin chart. Let's talk about all of my analysis, my perspective moving forward, because this one is really important. And what has just happened since yesterday was the most bullish thing that could have ever happened inside of Bitcoin. Well, let's go to a monthly time frame and let's talk about it here. Now, if you guys remember from some of my earlier videos, I've basically been pointing out that we really needed to reclaim this yearly support. The yearly support was at 6,400. This sell-off took us all the way to 38, and within the month, we actually closed all the way back above this level. And from that point, this next green candle was very important because we had to figure out, if this green candle was going to have to come back down and retest these lows, or if we were just going to get an immediate buyback. And guys, this is exactly what we saw. We are now seeing a bullish engulfing candlestick right here on the monthly time frame after we just had a massive sell-off. If that isn't seller capitulation, I do not know what is. And if you guys are still bearish for new lows, there's no saving you at this point. It's just plain and simple. That's my personal belief. I could be totally wrong, but at the end of the day, guys, this looks extremely bullish. If you have a monthly time frame that has this big of a drop, we have this big of a wick on the downside, and then from the close into the next month, we now have a bullish engulfing candle. This could not have gone any better, and I am so adamant about saying that because it's just true. What we're seeing right now inside of Bitcoin is an exceptional buyback. Look at this. Look at this swing. We sold off right here at 8,000 approximately, 8,100, and we're already about 10% in profit just from that sell-off. We've already came back and we're already outside of that entire correction that we saw. And this is the exact reason why I've been telling everybody, do not panic sell that dip. Even though I really didn't even have that much cash, I still managed to buy some spot Bitcoin at $5,000, and I'm already in a lot of profit from that point. And it really does pay that you're able and willing to accumulate when the market is cheap. When the market makes you just feel sick to your stomach, that is the time when you want to accumulate. So from those spot buy orders, I'm up already 75% basically, which is just insane. I mean, with a little bit of cash I had, it was amazing how many Bitcoin I was actually able to get just because of the simple fact how cheap it was. I never thought I'd get the opportunity to buy down here again. I remember that even when we were right here and we were impulsing, I remember sitting there thinking, man, it really would be cool if Bitcoin actually just went a little bit lower, one more low, and I'd buy some more. And a lot of people were saying that same thing, but the funny thing was that low came and nobody wanted to buy it anymore. And in fact, people started selling, and they've been saying the same thing. Selling now, I'm going to wait to rebuy lower. Lower never comes, and now they're screwed. And so that's the way it's looking. I mean, the fact that we got such a big buyback is very, very bullish. And we got to talk about a couple things here, so let's dive it into an even shorter time frame. Really, we're just kind of consolidating right here. What I told you guys in my last video was that I was watching for 9,100 all the way upwards of 9,200, which would be about right there. This range right here, and we wicked a little bit higher above this, but it was still a really good short opportunity if you were able to actually open one up right there. I was fishing all day, and I was also sick yesterday, so I didn't even have the opportunity to sit at my laptop. I didn't have Wi-Fi. Otherwise, that's where I would have opened my shorts, and that's what I told everybody inside of my signals. I said that 91 to 9,200 was a good place to short, and from there, we actually got our rejection. Now, where are we standing today? Are we going to start dropping lower? Are we going to see an impulse that takes us, upwards of 10K? And I'll talk about that here because I think that there's a few very important things that we got to consider right now. Now, obviously, we have the New Year support at 6,400. At this point, because of the fact we didn't actually start selling off at 7,400 right here, and we got that impulse, I am no longer a believer that we're actually going to sell through these New Year lows. I find that less likely at this point. And in fact, I find it less likely that we come all the way back down to 64. It is very possible that we can, but I think that that's my less likely scenario. Personally, what I'm going to be watching out for is we have this level here at about 7,300. And so this is going to be the next support level that I'm watching for, 7,300. And the reason for that is if I actually drop it into a little bit of a shorter time frame, let's talk about some things. This looks weakness to me. This looks like it's about to dump. Pretty confident in saying that. This looks like a big ABC correction. I'm very confident that we're probably going to go down from this point, and it's going to look something like this, right? Now, 7,300 takes us to all the way down here. It's very possible that we don't actually correct that low because that C wave would be really, really big. And in fact, I think it's a little bit more likely that we'd stop somewhere around 7,777. 7,777. I think that that's going to be a pretty strong level that I'm going to watch out for, and that's really going to be the way in which I play this market because this, guys, this just looks like euphoria. This is what you see at the top of a trend before we start to correct back down. And so I'm going to be watching out for this 7,777 range. and that should complete the ABC correction. And from there, you know, we could get a little bit of a bounce up, and then we could even fall lower again. We're just going to have to watch and see kind of what happens. But nonetheless, I think that with what we're seeing inside of Bitcoin today, there's no reason to be bearish until we actually start selling through. You know, if we start selling through 6,400, then I'm going to start worrying a little bit, because that's going to show a lot of weakness. But the thing is, guys, Bitcoin's outperforming all of the S&P. You know, S&P started dumping and Bitcoin pumped really hard, and so I think that that's a really good sign overall. Now, this is continuously what we need to see. The thing is, guys, I believe that this is just the last capitulation, and if we drop it to a weekly time frame and take a look at the volume perfectly explains that scenario. And I'm looking at Coinbase right now. I like to use Coinbase for my volume because of the fact Coinbase has some of the most active institutional investors on their exchange, and they're really focused on institutional investors. And so for me personally, I don't give a crap about what retail is doing, because I'm retail. Why would I follow myself? I'm much more interested on following the people that have the real billions of dollars that are going to be investing into these markets, because at that point I can follow them, I can follow that trend, and I can make money along the way. And so for me, I don't really care about what retail is doing. I foresee that Coinbase is being a big institutionalized exchange. I think that that's what the longevity of this exchange will be. And because they've already started to migrate their fees, obviously their fees have gone way up over the last few months, and that's because they're structuring it more to those institutional investors. And I think that that's a really good thing, and that's really why I like to follow this Coinbase volume, is because of the fact I foresee this being a little bit more accurate than a lot of the other charts. Now, if we see here, we have a peak in volume, and it shows an exact peak in the bottom of a trend. So this was a reversal. Down here we get our second one. This takes us to the bottom here. We get another one right here. This also takes us to the top. And we have another one right here that is bigger than all of the previous volume. And that was the recent drop that we just saw. In my opinion, this is a no-brainer. We all kind of understand what way the market's moving. And if we take a look at the volume, we now have more volume than the cycle high. And that came down at the low. And there was actually more spot buys in this range right down in here during this initial sell-off than ever before in Bitcoin history. And what that means, spot buys are, you know, you buy at the market price, and then, you know, you put those away for long-term holding. And that's kind of like what a spot buy order is. And I accumulated a little bit at 5K. I know a lot of people are buying, but what makes me happy and what makes me confident is the fact we saw the most amount of spot buy orders ever happen on Bitcoin and in the market right down in here. And so what I've been kind of updating you guys with as far as what I think this correction looks like, I actually think that this is a big triangle correction, and we're just kind of coiling inside of this triangle, right? And let's actually delete these two lines. I foresee this being a big triangle correction, and we can see that we're really just starting to coil tighter and tighter. And right now we're at this point where we're kind of still below the previous resistance. We're still kind of a little bit further away from the descending resistance. But at the same time, depending on where you draw this, if you're counting candle bodies, we did just get rejected. And so either way, we're really close to that descending resistance. For me personally, I'm going to be looking at the candle wicks. And it really doesn't change my strategy. Doesn't mean we have to come all the way up to this descending resistance and then fall. But regardless, this looks to me like something like this. Big A, B, C. And we can break out in the D wave. Or, oops. This to me looks like a big A, B, C, D, E correction, right? And it's possible that we could be breaking out in this D wave. It's not like we have to fall back down. And if we did, I think that correction would be pretty quick, and we might not even come back down to retest these lows. I personally don't think that we will at this point. With how bullish Bitcoin just got, it would make less sense to me that we have to come all the way back down here again, especially with the buyback that we just saw, because that shows that there's a lot of value that was really taking entries right here, and it caused such a massive price swing on the upside. And so for me, I see much more reason to be bullish in this time. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be bearish after the recent correction that we just saw. And on top of that, if we actually go to this chart here, this is the Brave New Bitcoin Index. This is actually the all-time graph of Bitcoin that we have. And in this graph, we also have black lines indicating each and every halving. And then I've drawn these descending resistances and then these simple horizontal resistance lines as well to kind of map out how prior cycles have looked and how they look today. And really, guys, we've continued to follow this trend nicely, and it's very encouraging to see this. Every single cycle, we make a descending resistance. This takes us into our short-term bear market until we actually break outside of that. And usually the way it works is we make a couple little impulses. In this most recent one, we just made one big one, but in both of the last two, we just made these little impulses. And right before the halving, that halving takes place right below the all-time high of that previous cycle high. And this is the same thing that happened here. We had the descending resistance. We make a couple impulse waves. The halving happens. If you take the resistance at the top of that move, draw it over, this takes us to almost the all-time high of there. And this is the same thing that's happening in this cycle. We had this descending resistance. This impulse broke out of that. We started uptrending. We made a higher high. If you draw the resistance from the top, that takes us to almost the all-time high of that move. And that's where we're going to be at right here up to this halving. We've got a little over a week left, and then we're going to have halving number 3. Obviously, we all know what happens each and every halving. Halving number 1, explosion. Halving number 2, explosion. Halving number 3, do you guys really just think that this trend is done? See, here's the thing that I don't understand. Here's the thing I don't understand about the bears. So everybody keeps talking about how, oh, well, since $20,000, we've made lower highs and it's just been in this triangle. It's most likely going to fall because there isn't true, genuine bullish market structure. But then all of a sudden, all you got to do is just, look at the entire prior history of Bitcoin. Does this look like anything that's just going to randomly stop right now? For the first time ever, we now have institutional investors entering the market. The first time ever was in 2018. That was the first time we ever had institutional investors in this market. Why is it all of a sudden just bearish now? That makes no sense in my head. Really, all of these cycles look pretty much the same. Impulse, bear cycle, and then we go into another one. Impulse, this one was a big one. Impulse, bear cycle, and then we do another one. Impulse, bear cycle, and now we have our second impulse in this next story. And so for me, guys, yes, there is some differences between this cycle compared to prior ones, but at the same time, you're overthinking it in my eyes. I don't see it being that vastly different than all the other previous ones. And in fact, it's pretty much identical to all the last ones. There's just a little bit of a difference. Market structure looks a little different, but I mean, overall, it's roughly the same exact trend each and every time. And so I really don't understand the big reason to be bearish right now. I personally think that this is really still a good opportunity to be investing. Like I said, I'm going to be watching for Bitcoin to go down a little bit. Kind of what I'm going to watch for with us heading into this halving. Let's remove all these drawing tools real quick. With us heading into this halving, let's talk about some things. Now, I personally believe that we're going to get this sell-off, and then we're going to kind of drop back down, 7,300. It's possible we come all the way back down to 6,400. 6,400 would be kind of like that low that I'd be watching out for. But that's what I'm going to be watching out for. And then I think that we kind of stop, and then we'd go back up again, right? And that's kind of what I'm going to be watching out for with Bitcoin, because the halving takes place, about right here. I think that it'll be pretty similar to what we saw in the last cycle, where we actually had the last halving right here, and then we sold off and had one more strong capitulation before going back up. And I really wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing happen again, because it's a simple example of buy the rumor, sell the news. It's the same thing that happened with Litecoin. If we go and take a look at Litecoin real quick, we're going to see that we saw roughly the exact same sort of thing happen, because Litecoin just had a halving. Litecoin's halving was up here, I believe. It was somewhere way up high. And then we actually ended up selling off quite a bit. And I think that it was one of those simple analogies where, Litecoin really led that entire altcoin move, and the Bitcoin move, really. It had one of the highest impulses as far as percent return. And I think the biggest reason why it was doing that is because people were buying the rumor of this halving. They knew when the halving for Litecoin was coming up. They were buying the rumor, and then when the halving actually took place right here, they sold the news, and that's why it basically fully retraced. And so that's kind of what I'm expecting to play out similarly to with Bitcoin. I could be wrong, and I would be thankful to be wrong, because that just means my money's going up and it's worth more than before. But at the end of the day, I just foresee this being a little bit oversold. I mean, I've been saying that we're going to see a short-term correction. It could have been right here, but the fact that we got that final impulse, this to me just looks like a little one wave. As far as Elliott wave theory goes, this looks like a 1, this looks like a 3, and this was our 5. And so from this, we got to have a little bit of a short-term correction. My guess is we'll wind up somewhere between the 3 and the 4. The top of the 3 would be approximately 7,300. The bottom of the 4 would take us to about 6,400. And so that's what I'm going to be watching out for with Bitcoin. But regardless, I think that this is a good buying opportunity. I'm going to be doing everything that I can to accumulate this dip that I foresee coming. If we don't get the dip, you know what? I've already accumulated all my spot buy orders. I've been averaging down this entire dip. I already have a significant portion of altcoins. I've got a nice amount of Bitcoin. I'm happy with the way I've invested my money. And I have a really good average entry of about, I think it's at about 64.50, or I think it's about 68 actually. I think that's where my average entry price is for this dip. And so with that, I'm not even going to complain. That's an excellent opportunity for me. I'm just going to be watching out for one more final sell-off, and then that should, in theory, kind of finish it up. Now, before we wrap up this video, let's talk about the Bitcoin dominance, because this is one that I've been very adamant about paying attention towards, because there's something very important taking place here. Now, as far as Bitcoin goes, this to me has a couple scenarios. So this line right here is support. This line right here is resistance. And we can see that we've made impulses and we've continued to make higher highs this entire way up ever since 2018 when Bitcoin started dropping. And from this point, I said that it was likely we were going to see a rejection right here. But with Bitcoin pumping like it did, it's now getting a nice buyback. And so what we could very easily be seeing is the same thing that I've been trying to point out to you guys, is a run back up to about 79% dominance. And we could see something kind of along the lines of this. This was really our first impulse. We'll get another one up here, and then we'll kind of rally up to this 79%, and then that will finish off this move. But until we actually break above 65% dominance, there's really no reason to be super bullish in this time. We have to see Bitcoin dominance break above 65% for this to truly cement that this is bullish. In that case, I would be expecting altcoin Bitcoin ratios to take another leg lower. I think the dollar pairs are just going to follow whatever Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin really starts outperforming them, obviously the Bitcoin pairs will go down, but the dollar pairs will just continue to go up, even though they won't be going up as much percent return as Bitcoin is. And so this is what I'm watching out for with the Bitcoin dominance. This is what I've been updating everybody with. We either are going to get rejected, roughly where we're at right now at about 65-66% dominance, and then fall lower, or we're going to get a nice buyback and we're going to see some strong impulsing, one more final impulse, which would take us to about 79% dominance. And the reason why I've been saying 79% is because if we invert the scale, well, I don't even care to, but I've been updating you guys with a Fibonacci altcoin dominance fractal. Basically, each and every bottom before we have a massive alt season is a Fibonacci equivalent. It started at 3, it went from 3% to 5, from 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 and 5 is 13, 13 and 8 is 21, and that's going to be the next multiple. So obviously 21% inverted equals 79% Bitcoin dominance, and so that's what I'm going to be watching out for. If that is the case, the Elliott wave count would look something like this. This would have been our 1, this would have been our 3, and then we'll have one more final 5-wave impulse up, and then that'll complete this entire correction inside of the dominance. But realistically, we're still in a downtrend, so even with us going up one more high, at that point we would stop, and then we'd get a massive rejection, in my opinion. And then we just keep going lower, something along the lines of that. Obviously, that goes way farther than I personally think it will, but we'll see a longer correction similar to kind of what we saw right here, where we kind of messed around and then we had a strong sell-off. That was the 2017 alt run, and now we're just kind of going back up from that point. So anyways, guys, this is the video I had for you. If you found any value in this, always remember to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to this channel for more updates. Make sure you guys click in the description of this video to join the Discord server. On the Discord server, I offer my exclusive content, video course, and signals. If you guys want access to that, just shoot me a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But with all that being said, guys, I think that there's a lot of really good positive things that are happening in Bitcoin. Even if Bitcoin kind of makes this next big leg up, it's going to create a really good buying opportunity for altcoins, specifically with the Bitcoin pairs. But regardless, you're still going to be making money, because if the Bitcoin USD pair is going to be going up, all of the other altcoin USD pairs are going to be doing the same. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next video. As always, peace out.